Hello, friends. Host Eric here. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People, and a person periodically subject to wild typological accusations, such as last night's assertion that I'm an ESTJ. Boy, if you could see my kitchen, and Rachel just cleaned it too, I don't think you'd agree that I'm an ESTJ. I don't think any sane person would. Man, I wish I were an ESTJ. Life would be so much easier. Like, how much easier is life for an ESTJ than it is for an ENTP? A lot easier. Let me tell you. Things make a lot more sense when you TESI. It's just a fundamentally more sensible cognitive stack, right? Let me solve shit that matters to me. Let me attain outcomes that matter to me. It's like, how much more sensible could you be? Oh yeah, there are lots of TE tests you can give people. In some sense, Jeff Shaw's accusation that I'm an ESTJ, predicated on the fact that I said it's smart to hire an advocate because, my basic point was people don't attribute reasoning and argumentation. They don't attribute to that the same level of deference that they do to, say, an airline pilot or a brain surgeon or something, but it's just as significant and it's just as complicated and difficult to do. It's not very many people can do on the fly argumentation with other parties about issues and win consistently. So, it's like when Rachel's brother was positioned to kick Rachel out of the house, and I want to push back against it, I go in analyzing it by recognizing that, okay, Rachel's not going to win any TI arguments here. On TI technicalities, he has the ownership claims that justify him being arbitrary. So, I'm not going to be able to make that kind of argument. Are they more direct? Interesting question.
Yeah.
I think it depends where it is in the stack. So I think that FI DOMs are somewhat indirect, or at least somewhat cautious of, and just sort of implicitly aware of feelings as a matter of significance. I think probably both the T's up top are more direct and the F's up top are less direct. So, but that it's like that also has to do with the Negrum, which is, it's like I don't think that correlates very strongly with cognitive functions, directness. It is the case that if somebody is very direct and seems like almost combative in their directness, that they probably have a disdain, an implicit disdain for FE, right? Like, they're not agreeing to play by the FE rules very much.
true.
Those are SE impacts, Jake Forrest. People always get these things confused. Extroverted thinking is figuring out how to do something that isn't a logical argument or reasoning or something like that, right? It's figuring out how to do something. When we say somebody has good TE, well, what we really mean is we're looking at some artifact, like McDonald's, for example. They really knew how to maximize their total business, and they've implemented this approach. So the McDonald's we go to, for example, has 2 drive-through lanes, so you can order at 2 different boxes, and the only impact of that is that it makes people feel as though they're sitting in a less long line. There's no particular reason why not to just have one line go all the way out the back. I don't think it makes it more efficient on the McDonald's end, although it might a little bit. But regardless, the line does move fast, and it doesn't feel like you're waiting in a long line. If you're waiting in one of 2 lines of 4 cars, it feels a lot less long than one line of 8 cars. So that's good TE. McDonald's figured out how to do that, but the impacts are SE. So in other words, you would say what they did was that somebody with good TE figured out how to maximize SE impacts that they're seeking. So it's like if you're going to talk about impacts and link them to a cognitive function as an object of analysis rather than as an exemplified expression of attention, really, then we'd have to distinguish between SE impacts and TE how to. Like if you look at the way that Club ENTP engaged, it was very much a perfect example of what you might call kick the anthill. Every time anything purposeful was being done with the discourse that might be disruptive to his overall narrative, he kicked the anthill and pushed the narrative some other direction to try to keep it away from what he was doing. That's a very SE approach to solving a problem of narrative encroachment, is to start a fire over here, and then nobody's talking about what they're talking about anymore, and now we have to deal with this fire, you might say it's good TE in that it figures out how to get away from being held accountable, but it ultimately it's about the attention of the individual in that instance is directed towards making an impact somewhere to control the frame of reference or disrupt the frame of reference. Yeah, I mean, TE is so much about structuring the world for other people so that they don't have to TE or TI, So, like, when I go to McDonald's and get in the line, as soon as I'm in the line, everything is done for me with prompts and stuff. I get to the box, some lady says, "What do you want?" I tell her what I want. Well, first she says, "Are you using the mobile app?" And I say, "No." And then she says, "What do you want?" And I say, "I want 4 McDoubles with no pickles." And I go, "Oh, I should have gone backwards. I forget. I gotta remember that." And I go to myself, rewind. Okay. I want 2 large Cokes, 1 large fry, and 4 McDoubles with no pickles. You gotta put that last, you see, because the person has to adjust each of the McDoubles to say no pickles. They don't have a mass adjust all of these to say no pickles button. And that's an example of a company that built their architecture with one thing they could have included that they didn't, that they probably should have included. So how many total seconds are lost as anytime somebody comes in through like me and says 4 McDoubles with no pickles, and they have to go, instead of going McDouble 1, 2, 3, 4, enter, like they do if they use order in regular, they have to go McDouble, change, no pickle, McDouble, change, no pickle, McDouble, change, no pickle, McDouble, change, no pickle. So somebody had bad TE about that. Like, that didn't get TE well.
No.
And as a consequence, it has huge SE impacts on balance cumulatively over time. That happens in every McDonald's all over the country, or maybe all over the world, every time somebody makes that kind of order, because they didn't put that into their architecture. They didn't put a means to do that into their architecture.
I wonder if they will.
Basically, all corporations are and have is TE, right? Which is why I personally realized I prefer working for a corporation than a small business. And this is the thing, is with my ex-boss, now that was a small business, but it was very corporate in its culture. And the woman came from corporate culture. You know, it's like it was a corporate woman who started her own business. Oh, just because Jeff Shaw didn't like my explanation that you should delegate advocacy because you aren't very good at it and somebody else is, and assumed and called that an example of me being an ESTJ. Of course, ESTJs don't trust argumentation, so it's like I can explain to an ESTJ why they're going to win the case, but they're not going to believe it until they experience it. And that's just what it means to be anti-polar, is they don't get how certain like argumentational realities or other communicative or universalizable realities, how they have determinate or like maximally relevant factors that are ultimately the other factors get washed out in the mix, and that's the thing that decides the thing. That's what they lack, ESTJs, is the capacity to recognize that. So they don't trust in arguments, and they won't trust that they're going to win a case, no matter how open and shut it is, until they've actually heard the verdict and gotten their money or whatever. And even after once they've heard the verdict, they won't really believe that they're going to get paid until they actually see the money appear in their account. They won't try to spend any of it until it actually arrives, you know.
Yeah. It's kind of like how with like Jeffrey's mom, like when she was like around the area and wanted to drop off the check, she wanted it to be you that she was handing the money to, like not me.
I concluded that's probably because she wanted to talk to me at the same time about what she wanted to schedule or something. Because when I did talk to her, then she held me there and talked to me.
That makes sense. Then.
But the problem was she didn't hold me for very long because I was with a client at that moment, so it didn't work out for her anyway.
That was so funny.
Does that make you satisfyingly understand why that happened?
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird too when you told me about it, but now when I saw her, I realized, oh, she wants to meow with me about meow face to face, where she thinks she can better, I don't know, finagle me or something. Yeah, reading a restaurant's register menu was like an enigmatic code. Luckily, the ice cream shop I worked at had a Clover system for the register, much easier TE. And you know, it's pretty important if you're going to be an effective business that you have good TE. And that's exactly what I did at my business that I worked under an ENTJ for. And she mistakenly believed that what's almost always true was true in this instance as well, which is that there's nobody who's not replaceable, and nobody whose job can't be rendered into sets of instructions. Except, as I tried to explain to her, that's not true. That's true almost always, but not for coaches. When you've got Nick Saban as your coach, you don't just think you can replace him with some random person you find on the street or something, you know? He's not that replaceable. It's not true for coaches, and it's not true for players. So it's like, the reason a certain team is very successful, especially if it's basketball, which maximally rewards individual greatness among team sports, right? So it's not the case that the Lakers that won all those championships with Magic Johnson and Kareem and stuff would have been just as good if we had had different players. It's all organizational. It was all Jerry West somehow that made it all happen, and it didn't really matter who the players or the coach was. It was just Jerry West. His presence there alone was enough to make sure the organization would be successful at all times, whatever. So anyway, as soon as she fired me, tried to replace me with this complete scrub, she started to learn the hard way that that's not going to work. Eric's right. Unfortunately, I told her the solution at the time. I said, the only way you're going to be able to meaningfully replace me is if you get Scott Wheeler to replace me. And she went out and ponied up the big money for him that she didn't pay me, way more than she paid me. I mean, considering that he worked a lot less and basically made the same amount of money and did a lot. Had a much smaller job than I ever had. So
she got Scott Wheeler in the end?
So she did. She ended up getting him, and it did preserve her business for a couple of years. Although my team still went out there and beat his team in policy quarterfinals in Salt Lake City at the Nationals, and that was one of my happiest wins. And my team, it's like she'd already done a lot of damage to the business by the time she got Scott Wheeler, because in that second semester, what she did was she waited until she got all the checks from all the parents and cashed them all, and then fired me. So it was like they had a whole second semester with this scrub, and they had just paid for me. And she told them I moved away.
Wow.
Yeah, well, the thing is, she did have to learn at some point then that I was right. That you can't just replace. Doesn't Jeff Shaw just have an unhealthy obsession over Rachel by accusing you of being all control, and he's making an admission that he thinks Rachel has no autonomy? Well, that's what I was trying to say in there too. Of course, he never addresses the significant things I say. Like I was saying, Jeff Shaw's trying to create a situation in which either Rachel's weak or I'm overbearing or both. And in reality, neither of those things is the case. I'm not overbearing and she's not weak. But that Jeff Shaw doesn't have an unhealthy obsession with Rachel because he has an unhealthy obsession with me. He will use whatever. In this case, it was Rachel.
Yeah.
But he will use whatever.
Because plenty of times he's been in the chat and he will say something a little bit like, to instigate Eric to fight with him, to argue. Like he's an arguer. He doesn't
Right,
like to argue.
and no matter how much the guy, I cannot accuse him of what I do not believe is the case. I do not think he has an unhealthy obsession with Rachel at all. I don't think he's fixated particularly on Rachel.
No.
I think he's just whatever's near me that he can use to attack me with, he'll attack me with. Yeah, so at least we can say that he's not creepy like that. Really, he's not creepy like that towards Rachel at all. He's just a douchebag, He's just really threatened, I think, is what it boils down to. I'm not sure. It's like I get the urge to take people down a notch who are too full of themselves or whatever. But it seems weird to me that you would, if you spent as much time watching me as he apparently has, that you wouldn't at some point just go, okay, I get it. This guy's this guy's a regular human being. You know, he's got his moments when he's insufferable. He's got his moments when he's sad and humble. He's got his moments when he's not feeling it. His moments when he is. He's just a regular guy like anybody else, you know. And the fact that he's saying this or that claim and arguing with people and battling it out, well, it's just because there's a lot of wrongness in the world, and he's operationally designed to address it. But the fact that he never gets there seems weird. It's like, because the way that he conflated TE with like, I guess, impacts or the perfectly reasonable conclusion that there are certain sets of skills that need to be mastered before you perform certain jobs, and that mastering those skills is not something that happens overnight or without any intentionality. You don't just naturally wake up one day like, hey, I'm a concert pianist. What do you know? My fingers must have learned while I was sleeping. Yeah, we do hang out at CJ's when I'm not streaming.
Yeah, we do.
Like, ideally what happens is this. Around the time I get tired of streaming, CJ shows up in this stream.
That's nice.
And then everybody talks him into streaming as I segue away from streaming. That's how it ideally happens.
Yeah.
But I don't check to see if he's streaming or not before I start, so sometimes we might overlap or something.
Yeah. And it's nice because the conversation can continue, but it's not necessarily the same topic, so it's like a hangout for friends.
It feels the same to me as being here, except I'm on the other side of it.
Right.
Though. And I don't really get to be on the other side of it usually, and it's nice sometimes. Although sometimes it's annoying because CJ is not looking at my words enough, you know. I'm not reading them, or I'm not getting enough response from people. But then sometimes I'm just talking to make myself laugh too, so it depends on my mood. But Gen X's stream is sit-throughable because he's got horrible fucking background music. Who can listen to that horrible music he listens to? Nobody. I can't.
I can't either, really. But, he doesn't like the silence. Could you do a card reading for me?
Sure. You want to give me a pack of cards?
Yeah. Which, do you think? The dog?
Let's go with the circle cards again.
Circle cards.
They're nice and feminist. I like to explore my womanhood when I'm reading the tarot. I like to finger my meat flaps. We'll do a real quick here. I know a lot of people don't really like tarot. Some people do, and it's definitely a very distinct kind of thing from what we normally talk about. But I think it's fun to do. And,
it's fun.
And
it's more entertainment.
Yeah. If we don't get stuck on it for too long, hopefully it doesn't drive too many people away. It's like music. It's something that it's a narrower group that's interested than the standard around here, you know.
J Force asks, Rachel, do you have oracle cards? I do more oracle than tarot these days. I actually do have oracle cards. They are Teal Swan oracle cards, so they come with a lot of you should live this way.
Here's what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Teal Swan's Here's What's Wrong With You deck.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Everything is framed in terms of what's wrong with you.
It's true, because like you can get a positive card, like say you pull out the joy card. It could be like, your day is going to be filled with joy and wonder. think about all the times that you weren't joyful and how you could have used joy to make that moment a little bit better.
Try not to fail so hard in the future.
Yeah.
All right, this is for Jake Forrest. My bad, KP.
Ooh. Son of Swords. We pulled a male. There's not many men in this deck.
And no, fair point. No, it doesn't hurt for me to be reminded of that periodically. I do have a tendency to naturally monopolize the narrative space, you know.
10 and 14. Temperance.
Temperance. Okay, and here's your third card, Jake Forrest. And then we'll do an interpretation of it. Ooh.
Ooh.
The Tower?
That's the Tower card, number 16.
Okay, so what this means is because you're such being a baby about some sort of thinking matter for some reason, although that doesn't sound like you. Because you're being a baby about some thinking matter, you're not exercising enough temperance, and in your blind drunkenness, you cause some kind of disaster.
Changes.
And remember, you can prevent this future from happening by exercising a little bit more self-control, Jake. Okay, a little bit more self-control, please. Now, Karma's Pimp, you make an excellent point, and it's one thing. It's something I'm constantly reminding myself of and failing to follow through on. Like, it's hard for me. I'm used to being very talky.
Jake Forrest, you get a Teal Swan card just because you asked. Ooh, number 55, Soul Family.
Soul Family, girl. Jake Forrest is a soul family. You're in a family of soul. That means you bring a lot of sexual energy to the party.
Yeah. Maybe it's saying your soul family is here. Yeah, exactly, Jake Forrest.
I thought it meant he brought a lot of sexual energy to the party.
You coming with the soul family.
I think of soul as being sexual, like, you know, sexual healing seems like a soul song to me.
Yes, that is a soul song.
Alright, so here's cards for Karma's Pen. Card number 1. What's that one?
4, the Emperor.
The Emperor. So, okay, we start there. I guess you're feeling imperious today. Like an emperor. Full of piss and vinegar. And intuition. And your second card, the Two of Swords.
Ooh.
You've got a choice to make. Am I going to choose to put this feather over there or over here? And apparently, you want to put your heel into your puss. As you can see. So, you got some sort of weird egret fetish, I guess. Karma's Pimp has a weird egret fetish. And your last card is Magician. Wow, you got some big cards popping out today.
Cards.
So I guess you'll use your magician-y ways to imperiously decide which of your two choices you're going to go with, and reality's just gonna have to cooperate with you.
Yeah.
That's what's indicated by those two powerful intuition cards in there, Magician and Emperor. Those are two big intuition cards, right?
Yeah, they are.
No, I mean, Master Bobby, I think that is an issue. It's like Rachel doesn't talk that much, right? So when she does start talking, why would I ever interrupt her? There's no cause for me to interrupt her ever, and I do it all the time, and it's ridiculous. And it's like, it's bad FE. So I don't like having bad FE. And note that it's not so much an FI issue, like that I'm worried that Rachel's not getting heard enough or something. It's that it's an FE issue. It doesn't look good, and it probably makes Rachel cringe a little bit on my behalf, and makes me cringe a little bit on my behalf. So I shouldn't do it. So because FE is important for me feeling like I'm cool. I don't want to be not cool.
That's true. Who wants to be in the not cool group? That doesn't look good.
What are you talking about? Hopefully all these false accusations won't make you want to double down more so in order to prove them wrong. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. What do you want? I didn't ever draw you cards, Rachel. What's it going to be about? You want to be hot? Well, I'd like to be hot, but I don't want to be hot at the expense of being cool.
Ooh, those are wise words, really.
Rachel, your first card is the Daughter of Cups.
Oh.
So,
Feeling flirty.
well, I mean, I see that as your former state of kind of being kept in an emotionally in a state of emotional vulnerability equivalent to that of a child against your will,
Yes.
Hot is a subset of cool. Okay. Alright, then. I want to be hot, too.
Yeah.
I want to be cool and hot.
Yes, I think ideally you want to be both. Ooh.
Six of Swords. Six of Swords, Rachel.
Six of Swords. That's, the moving on emotionally card.
Mm-hmm. And that's the present.
Moving
Talk about
on
the
up.
emerging present. What some people call the future, but only in a predictive, not in a, what's the word? Not in a prescient kind of way. Daughter of Wands.
Oh.
So I think that that's kind of like practical immaturity. Let's do another card, since that one seems to want clarification too.
Shaman of Swords.
So I think that's indicative of your growth intellectually. And then last, the frame, I guess. Four of Cups.
Oh no!
What's the Four of Cups?
Meditation, consideration, boredom.
Why did you say no? Oh no, it's not a good card?
It's that kid he's sitting cross-legged under a tree and there's a cup that's reaching out for him, but he's so in his meditative state that he doesn't realize that the cup is there.
Right, well I think that's just indicative of the fact that you're still stuck somewhat in your head about your mom.
That's true.
She's still somewhat leasing your headspace.
Yes, that's true.
Um,
Can we do one for you?
Sure. Oh, see, but I think hot means you're now, right? Cool is more permanent.
Yeah, cool is more permanent. Ooh, the crone.
Or is that the same as the hermit?
Yep. That's such a lovely card. 10 of Cups, emotional satisfaction. Priestess of Cups, more emotional maturity.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty emotionally mature these days.
Yeah.
And frame, Seven of Swords.
Ooh, that's deceit.
Well, yeah, I mean, your mom's being very deceitful.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense, right?
Yes.
In the face of all this deceit,
You mean?
I'm not gonna be influenced by externals because it's deceitful.
Yep.
That I'm actually in a state of a good amount of emotional maturity, and that this represents, I think, my moving up a level from shaman or something to priestess, and this just is what this is all in response to, which is this fox called your mom.
Yep.
Chasing our chickens. Okay, let's put these away now and move on to other matters. Matters such as why cucumbers are green.
Why are they green?
It's the chloroform. They need it to breathe
Oh.
underwater.
Oh, see, Tiffany knows.
Mm-hmm. It's called chlorophyll, Eric. God. I'm a
Both of us.
sophist and a muzzy and a bu-bu-bu-bu. And my face is feeling scuzzy 'cause I haven't shaved what. And I know, yeah. I'm a sophist and a muzzy. Ooh, sophist and a muzzy. Ooh. What's a sophist and a muzzy? I don't even know what those things are.
See, I think that animals are very in tune when it comes to like people. And I feel like Capito is pretty judgmental when it comes to people. Like, she doesn't let everyone in. And the fact that she's so loving towards you and I shows that she really, like, we have a good environment.
Mm-hmm. But you know what's funny is when she came to sleep next to me at some point last night, I think it was like after I don't remember when it was during the night, but the cat walked over to the side of the bed and looked down to see if Rachel was on the floor where she was sleeping.
Oh.
To check to see if she was there first, and she saw her, and then she came back and lay down next to me.
Oh, that's a good kitty friend.
Well, then why would you ask him if he is one, if you don't even know what it is, Master Bobby? No, I don't need to prove anything. The thing is, I don't operate like that. I don't need to show people that I'm not a dictator. I just tell people that I'm not and explain to them why it's bullshit what they're saying. I show people that I'm not constantly at all times. It's not like there's anything about me that actually is suggestive that I'm controlling, bossy. And it's not like I'm different when I'm not on camera, really. It's the same.
No, it is the same.
You know, in this book that I have, this horrible, horrible book. And, you know, if you're going to blame India for something, Bobby, blame them for writing this book. This
Yes.
horrible book.
Oh my gosh.
The God of Small Things. You're a cryptic salafist. You doesn't even know what it is, though. Oh, Boba said that. Well, why wouldn't you ask him what it means if you don't know what it means, Bobby? If somebody calls you something and you don't know what it means, the natural thing to do is to say, what does that mean? Do I think cats are ENTP? I had an ENTP cat. Oh, he did ask. My bad. My bad. Did Boba Fett not answer the question? Is Boba Fett really the one to blame for all of this? Did he call Bobby something? Bobby asked him what it meant and he didn't respond?
Oh.
Boba Fett. Boba Fett.
Oh, Boba Fett.
That's why you're BF and not BFF. Okay? You're just my boyfriend. Don't be a jerk like that, Boba Fett. Come on. Now you made me look dumb. Now everybody thinks I'm dumb. Thanks a lot. Sorry, Bobby. My bad. You were right. I was wrong. See, how hard is that? It's not that hard, right? Why do people have so much trouble saying that? My current cat's an ISTJ, Moxie. She's a very ISTJ. She's super into SI shit, you know. She expects everything to go the same way it always goes. And if it doesn't, then she gets like, shouldn't we be going inside around now? You know, like, she likes her routine. And she's very distressed by but also intrigued by the disruption to her routine that the ESFP cat Trouble brings into the mix. Trouble's full of ham-fisted demonstrative FE. It's like, ew, 6-slot FE.
Who is that? Trouble?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's an HP cat like? He was very talkative and clumsy, and did things like climbed up into a tree and then screamed at us from up in the tree to come get him down. You know, and then I can't get up there. I can't get up there. Normal. I called him Normal because he was so abnormal. That was his name. He was like he couldn't decide whether he was supposed to he couldn't decide whether he was supposed to walk on 4 legs or sit on his butt or walk on 2 legs. He'd like go like this and then fall over backwards. It was practically trying to go like this, which is the textbook ENTP move. You got to sleep like this, you know. He didn't make it. That Laverne house was a death sentence for pets. It's like the universe was rejecting that relationship. It would kill every pet Kimberly and I got. Just killed them all. It killed them all. It's like that house, just bad luck, a series of just cars and coyotes and dogs and whatever. A turtle got ran over.
Oh, man.
Chickens died. Like, it was cursed. Everything we touched turned to shit.
That's the kind of stuff that the universe sends people. It's hard to believe that it's like sent from the universe, because you don't want to. When you're in the relationship, you don't want to believe that that you being in the relationship will like affect other areas of your life.
Well, no, you don't. You want to think that if you go through the motions of a healthy relationship, it'll become one.
Yes.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Looney Tunes matches? No, I got the Ginger Man matches. This is a restaurant, and these ones are. This is for One West California. Oh, Barney's restaurant, Barney's Beanery. It used to be called, or became called, or something. So anyway, people have asked me. I remember somebody saying, "Have you ever had any kind of paranormal experience, Eric?" And I say, "Well, not really, but I did have one. And this is the most paranormal thing that ever happened to me. I swear, I found a cursed bear at that house. It was cursed. I found it when I was painting in Colin's room after Colin moved out, and it had this stuff that goes, it's like molding, I guess, crown molding. And on top of it was a little hard plastic, like fairly detailed in its construction, like a high quality hard plastic bear from who knows how long ago. Could be 60s, I don't know. And I thought, oh my god, this is going to be such a. I'm going to turn this into a magical totem of sorts and make it my. I call it something like Ben the Good Luck Bear or something. But I only remember the name it eventually came to have, which is the Catastrophe Bear. Because immediately, like the first thing I did after I thought that and like put it in my pocket was broke the screen of the laptop that I had with me at that moment by just picking it up and it just broke. And then it's like one of our kittens got maimed, and so I took it out after a couple of bad things happened. I took it outside and I said, okay, I'm pointing this thing over that direction, okay, away from me, away from us, sort of diagonal through the neighbor's front yard and across the street. And exactly where I was pointing that bear the next morning, as it's still pointing that direction, our kitten gets maimed right where the bear's looking.
Oh my gosh.
And a couple other bad things happened, like crazy bad things with this involving this bear. And I just said, you know what? I'm putting this fucking thing in the trash can out front. This is ridiculous. I've never encountered anything like this.
That's pretty paranormal.
I like to play with magic as an idea or something. I don't expect anything to actually happen. You know, what the hell? What's going on with this fucking bear? You know?
Yeah.
I put it out in the trash can on the curb where they were coming to pick it up, and I pointed it towards the water processing plant across the street on the grounds that, well, at least because there was a house across the street that had been pointed to before, but now the next door to that was a water processing plant. So if I put it in the trash can up front, I could point to that, and I did, and then it went away and it got taken to the dump, and I never saw it again. Never had any more problems with it, But anyway, that was the most paranormal thing that's ever happened to me. Was that bear? That bear was spookily. There was just this. What can only rationally be explained as an unreasonable succession of coincidences that that explained these phenomena. I don't remember what they all were, but I had like a list of them at the time, and it was ridiculous. It was like, then I came out here and bam, put it there, and then this happened. Then I went over there and put it there, and then that happened, and then it was ridiculous,
So when you threw it out, did you find that the energy changed a little bit?
As soon as I put it out in the trash can and pointed across the street, bad stuff stopped happening. So, I mean, I don't know about energy or anything, but I can tell you that I ceased to have a succession of catastrophes, small to big. The idea of a small catastrophe is, of course, oxymoronic, but regardless. I thought it was called the Catastrophe Bear. I didn't feel any vibe or anything, I'm not tuned into that kind of stuff, right? I don't interpret things like that. I don't go, no. This has a weird feel to it or whatever.
I totally do.
I just could. It was so hitting me in the face with obvious, like, and I put it over there and I turn around and knock this thing over and it falls to the ground and breaks. And then I put it over there, and then that whole shelf collapses. It's like, what the fuck? This cannot be happening,
The fact that you had to point it out in the street and then...
Across the street to the water processing plant?
No, like to the neighbor's house, and then that was the direction that
exactly
the cat got named.
Yeah, exactly where the bear was looking. I went back after we rescued the cat from the cat got into the neighbor's backyard, and that was exactly the spot where the bear was looking.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, that was horrible to witness and be any part of it all, watching this, trying to rescue this cat who's in their backyard getting maimed by their dog, and we can't get back there immediately. I tried to climb their gate thing, but it was very flimsy, and I was going to like pull it down if I tried to climb it.
Hi, Moonfay11. Thank you very much for the compliment.
Yeah, it's a. I made it out of leopard skin. I
That's
killed a
the
leopard and skinned it, and I made Rachel this shirt.
yes. You wouldn't think that from an ENTP, but it's true. Eric, he deviates from type.
Hey now, what's going on in here?
What's going on?
Okay, you misty form. I don't believe in ghosts. That can't possibly be a real butcher's knife you're bringing to stab me with. And I'm dying. I can't possibly be actively dying. Boy, that guy's got some real denial going on. Is liking something like a clothing brand or a company FI or NI? I think it's FI. I think it's FI and possibly SI.
I know for myself, with shopping, it takes me a long time to find a clothing store that I think suits me and what I'm looking for, which is usually, price point, quality, and flattering shapes of design. And then I'll continue to like shop at those places because but it takes a long time because I'm not sure what I'm looking for. I mean, I'm sure what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that fits, but every store has their clothes fitted in a certain way, so it takes a while. Where I think if you have FI, it's easier to make those decisions on, oh yeah, I like this on me. I want this shirt.
I mean, I think what you're describing is an NI understanding that this clothing store is much more likely to have something you like in it than another clothing store, rather than an attachment to a brand.
True.
Like my dad has a lot of attachments to brands and stuff. But that's an SI. He's SI and FI.
FI, yeah.
I think it's that combination of those two. Because a lot of my dad's attachment to brands comes from the fact that we've been with these people for a long time. Even though it's not really any people. It's just a company name and whatever. And it's like, the other side of that is like Jonathan Basanti was telling me the other day that his ESTJ dad, he paid me to type in by sending me $100. Jonathan Basanti did it, $100 bill in the mail, and his dad was like, "That's crazy. You'll never see this money again. You can't trust this guy who blah, blah, blah." But of course, that's NI polar. Like when somebody tells me yesterday, look, telling people to PayPal you first and then you'll email them is super shady. I'm like, but it's super convenient for me. Because then I just have to, every time I get a PayPal notice, then I know I send them my cut and paste. You just purchased a typing session. What day and time do you want? Thing, I mean, I think sticking to brands is an SI thing, yeah. I think it is. Because you know what you're going to get. And you want the same thing you got last time.
Yeah. INFJ, that's pretty hard to do, finding those brands that stick, because A-slot, SI, you have to, I have to try everything on when I go shopping. I like to try on. So online shopping has been something that I've learned during COVID times. Target used to have this certain brand at their store, and I loved their stuff, and the price point was great, the quality was good, and they recently, within the past 3 years, changed brands, and I'm not as happy with the stuff.
Well, look, here's the thing, Jaxie. If you can recall instances of yourself sticking to brands and choosing a given brand because it's that brand and because you can anticipate that you're going to get what you've gotten before and know what to expect, then you do have some SI, for sure. But you know, if you can recall instances of getting into bed and getting really comfortable and cozy and really kind of rolling around and being like, oh yeah, this is juicy, then you've got some SI. If you can't recall instances of that, then your SI is less conscious, you know?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. Vintage clothes aren't super SI necessarily. Like, I want to wear what's cool, and sometimes that links to SI stuff. So, in other words, sometimes it links to shared reference points, and in ways that are, like, well, for example, the other day I saw a guy at the Whippet store, near the Whippet store, who had on a KMET shirt. KMET was the hard rock channel that used to be in LA that went out of business in like '87 or something. Anyway, I was like, ooh, that's a cool shirt. Or like my Peachy folder shirt is an SI thing. It's my Are You Over 40 test. If you're over 40, you recognize it. If you aren't, you don't. And if you're over 40 and you recognize it, you go like, oh my god, that's so cool. But that liking a brand does not equal liking a brand. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the why, right? It really depends on the actual attentional approach to the question and whether or not you mean what you mean, right? Like, so when whoever that person was, Jack, said, I stick to brands. Well, I mean, sticking to brands and liking brands are not the same thing, right? So I stick to my brand of cigarettes for sure. And Rachel and I stick to McDonald's a lot. And, oh no, that was me, Bubby. That was me. Sorry about that. I just have some extras lying around, so try to get rid of them. You shop at Banana Republic because you're the toughest guy in that area? I want to wear what's cool too, but I don't know how. Well, I mean, you have to have a cool shirt. Like this. This is a very cool shirt.
That's a cool shirt.
This is a reference to a specific anime, and also successfully a reference to Japanese in general, because this means this is like the Japanese characters for the word thank you in Japanese, I think.
39 sounds like thank you in Japanese.
Right. Something like that, yeah. So, anyway, but I got this shirt because I thought it was cool because I liked the way it looked on the main character in Blue Exorcist. And I found one that looked just like the one on the show. Because they don't all look exactly the same. Like, various people have this idea of, I'm going to make shirts that you see in anime or whatever, and then you can buy it, right? But they didn't all look perfect. But this one looked just like the one on the show. Looked exactly right.
Like
I don't buy things that often, but when I do, I usually don't regret it. Like, I don't regret buying that Peachy shirt. I bought that from some shirt company in Hesperia up here in the high desert. And I liked it. I'm obviously a big Jimmy Carter fan. No, I'm pretty sure nobody's a big Jimmy Carter fan in terms of his presidency. It's like nobody says, you know who was a great president? Jimmy Carter. He did a fantastic job. I'm pretty sure nobody says that. Yeah, they might. Everyone's like, he did a great job in his post-presidency. He did a good job of being a what do they call that? Like a ex-president. What do they call those?
I don't know.
I guess they just still call him president.
Former president?
Former president, yeah. Former president, right. I'm not sure. There's probably a term like president emeritus or something.
There is a phrase, yeah.
I'm so inspired by Banana Republic that I want to start my own Banana Republic.
What would it be called?
It would be called the People's Democratic Representative Democracy
Ooh.
Republic of Eric. How long does it take me to decide if I like a shirt or not? It takes me no time at all to decide if I like a shirt. But whether I'm actually going to get a shirt is another question. I used to have a shirt that said something like, pretty okay guitar player. Which I thought was a pretty fun shirt. But it's like, that's one I didn't really wear. Because it wasn't a very good shirt. Like, it wasn't a high quality shirt. So I didn't like the way it felt on my body.
You're off right away. It's because you're a baby pig poop face.
I am baby pig poop face, that's true.
So baby pig skin is very sensitive to, cloth feeling.
Right. I wonder if people will be comfortable with a president poop face. I hope so.
I hope so too. We live in the.
It's 2022, for
Yeah.
God's sake.
Yeah.
Isn't it about time we poop faces have our time
I
in the
think
sun?
so.
Yeah. Potassius poo face. You're currently in Singapore, but used to be in London. Really? Isn't Singapore the place with the ridiculously draconian drug laws? Singapore, in your face. I wish it were the 4th of July. Yeah, anything at all. Absolutely anything, Bobby. Why can't my penis be a congressman? It's 2022. You don't need my whole body. God, talk about ontologically violent. My penis and I are often in disagreement. Don't expect my penis to represent the same kind of ideologies and positions and philosophies and positions on ideologies and so forth that I represent. My penis has a very different attitude. I'm very respectful towards women and don't objectify them and all that sort of stuff. But my penis seems to have a different attitude about that. I'm not sure why. Hey Eric, how have you gotten more comfortable with NI? Well, the answer is I was very uncomfortable with it at some stage. I'm still not facile with it. I'm still ignoring. The thing is, what I've gotten good at is action in NI. Like, the kind of NI that's necessary to support NE and make it more successful on FE metrics. So I've learned concision, I've learned crystallization from debate. And as far as using it in what I make, rather than what I'm explaining, I still make stuff the NE way mostly, which is to say, I throw shit out there conditionally and then wait until something hits, at which point things start to fall into place. So then at that point I can kind of go, okay, well, what naturally goes here, and listen, and just kind of it just comes to me, you know. But on the other hand, when it comes to receiving NI, the receiving kind of NI, which is its natural manifestation, it's like I'm still using it as a receive function, but I'm positioning it oddly compared to what it naturally is. So naturally, it's like when Jake asked earlier, did it give off a creepy feeling or something like that? That's NI that I'm ignoring all the time. Like, it would never occur to me to evaluate something like that even. I wouldn't know how to evaluate something like that. Death penalty for 15 grams of heroin? Sounds like somebody needs to give the death penalty to the death penalty happy fucks. You know, my penis is more like... I mean, my penis has this irrational interest in playing inside and outside kitty. That makes no sense, you know? Like my cat. Let me in. Okay, now let me out. Let me in. Let me out. Do you see any correlation between any and having, or the exhibition of, a pluralistic philosophy perspective? I mean, it depends what you mean by pluralism, I guess. If you mean that inclusion of multiple perspectives into a narrative is good, then I would say, yeah, that would correlate strongly with, the idea that there needs to be time and space for people's voices to be heard prior to any action being taken or concretization of action, you know. So we should potentiate in full perspective action before taking it. Is a basic any perspective. But if you're talking about pluralistic, like compromise-driven worldview, then the answer is not necessarily. That's a TI-FI question. FI is compromise-driven, and my penis doesn't have any view on butt dimples. My penis only has one eye and it's got tunnel vision. It's focused on a couple specific areas and is a little bit single-minded, you know. What are my thoughts on pluralism the way I first described it? I think it's true and also a little bit misleading, because it's like, the thing is, it has bothered Rachel that Jeff Shaw's comment has gotten so many likes on it. So the thing is, what that points to is something that's bothered me and concerned me occasionally as well, which is when you get people who are ill-intentioned, okay? So it's like they're not trying to express any truth. They're trying to make it more difficult to express truth, or etc., you know? A wise man once said, you must listen to Eric's live stream about eating cheese puffs. That was a wise man. Maybe it was unwise for him to use the word must, but still, the fact that he has an opinion on it is wise enough. So my position on pluralism is that you've got a complicated nexus of things interacting at certain points that need to be policed to some extent, because people are susceptible to being gaslit, which is to say, not everybody's got great intuition, and not everybody is going to be like a TI tool user who's operationally skeptical of everything and checks everything for whether it's legitimate, assumes things are going to generally fail to meet the standard, and is prepared to negate at all times, So when somebody positions a very pretty looking imitation plant, some people are fooled by it and they think it's a real plant, and that's not good, because they're not engaging first and foremost well intentioned. They're not there to help everybody find the truth. In this particular instance, they're there to attack Eric, right? And they're misrepresenting everything they're doing as something else. And their number one goal is to take Eric down a notch and establish some sort of FE dominance thing or whatever. But they're positioning everything else as something. They're positioning everything as something else, right? So it's like, who gets thrown into this wood chipper of bullshit? Well, Rachel gets thrown into the wood chipper of bullshit because she's close to me and she's a way to attack me. And the question then arises: how much should I allow ill-intentioned bullshit that otherwise sustains on my legitimacy standards, knowing that it's going to convince some people of some things that aren't true no matter what I say? And no matter what Rachel, I mean, the thing is, this bothers Rachel, not me. It's not like I'm thinking about how many likes like Jeff Shaw's thing has initially. I'm thinking, okay, well, Jeff Shaw may have added his own likes to it or whatever, I don't know. There's maybe like 2 people comprising all these likes, there's 7 likes or whatever there was, but I don't really know. But regardless, I'm still on the same page with her that if it is legitimate, which it could be because it was a well-crafted, although bullshit comment, then, to what extent do we want to provide space for that kind of narrative as well is a challenging question, because it's going to be, you're going to have somebody subjectively applying a standard that says this is an example of that, since definitionally it meets your other standards for legitimacy. And the answer basically is you do what YouTube's done, which is delegate that to the owner of the intellectual property, quote unquote, that comprises their channel, and treat it as though everybody's channel is kind of like their house and they can police it however they want. Oh, you're on a walk with the kitty. This is something that the cat expects to happen most days, She's SI dom, so she's used to leading Rachel around the yard on a walk and showing her things. What was it that pushed CE over the top? Who's CE? So, it's a tricky question. It's like a proper marketplace of ideas. Oh, right. I don't know what pushed him over the top. I mean, I think he was frustrated by my slow response and frustrated by when I did respond, which was like he was getting ready to transition into one line of attack, which was Eric's avoiding me, and then that blew up in his face, and I don't know. I don't know what I believe. And that's part of NI, right? NI ignoring for me. Is that I genuinely don't know really what to think about it. The point is, I would say to somebody like Jonathan Bassani who says, okay, at this point where you're just talking shit about the guy, that's what happens when you make a claim like that, right? Where you say, actually, I've been fooling you for an entire year in various ways. Then it's gonna set off a domino effect of wondering, right? I don't know. I can only. It seems I feel pretty confident that at least S is likely to be him, but that's the only one that I feel fairly confident about, really. Being NI ignoring means I'm used to persisting in a state of ambiguity where I don't know the answer to certain things, and I'm accustomed to operating with that as a consideration. Like, here's what I do know, and don't forget what you know you don't know. Also, Eric. Because there are things that you do know. You know, people like to say, I've said it before myself, I think, that you don't know what you don't know. Well, sometimes you do know what you don't know. A lot of times you do. In fact, if you've done all the mapping work, you should have a pretty well-defined boundaries around areas that you don't know. At least ask the many different things. I mean, that would also be an explanation, but it would seem odd for Elise to talk about it, to use that term, if she herself weren't connected to that area of thing. It's not a very commonly used term. I mean, Rain, no, it wouldn't. It doesn't. It wouldn't. That's very. All the stuff that she said was of the same kind of thing. So it was there. There wasn't a real demonstration of extroverted intuition there. It's a demonstration of, like, strong eighth slot. Like, I do a lot of stuff, but I create a small amount of impact for the stuff I do, right? And so that's an example of 8 slot SE is what I'm talking about right there. Now, for 8 slot NE, he creates a lot of change of details, but they're all the same kind of details. Which is like specific personal things, like SI things that you could make up easily enough, that mostly link to FI, things she likes, things she it's like, it's really easy to come up with. It's not like, it's not a character that makes intuitive sense. It's full of contradictions, because the purpose of picking this character trait or that one seems to me to be its capacity to provoke somebody who's got some problem with some group into some kind of ill-advised reaction. It's designed to create SE style impacts, right? It's designed to kick the. No, that's fine. I'll move the camera, Rachel. You're fine. It's designed to kick the narrative anthill and disrupt normal things. NI8, you generalize a lot of things about the specific things in your life. Yeah, I would say that's true. I would say the NI8 is the type that's most prone to over extrapolating from their own experience. This shirt's very Mr. Rogers. Thank you, 39.
It's very Blue Exorcist. If you've seen the show, you know what I mean. But that's not a bad, it's good to look like Mr. Rogers. He was a nice guy.
Maybe it would be a good background story for this shirt is I could pretend as though I didn't know anything about this shirt. It's just I've always thought it was important for us to thank the number 39. And when I saw this shirt, I was like, finally, somebody shares my advocacy.
Yeah.
39 has such a unthanked job, such a thankless job. No, I'm not buying into it. No, I'm talking about contingencies. Under interpretation 1, it would look like this. Under interpretation 2, it would look like this. I'm making arguments as to why one might interpret it way. Yeah, it doesn't mean I'm affirming that way as necessarily the case. I don't know.
Show media, I definitely am a cat walker, but the thing is that she leads me, so I can't see her as one of those cats on a leash because she's guiding me all the way. Like Eric was saying, she shows me different things that excite her or that make her feel good. She likes to smell things. She claws at trees, trunks, and just in general does adorable things.
39 is just a blowjob.
It's hysterical.
Jake Forrest.
I can't put it into words either, really, drag.
That's a good one too, New Groove. That's a good intuition right there. To show for someone's 40th birthday.
That's great.
Yeah.
Intuition.
Also, this would be a great shirt for 2040.
Yeah.
New Year's Day. For the same reason, right?
Yep. Thank you, 39.
You win praise and admiration.
That's not given that much around here.
Yeah. I don't dish it out like manure from the manure truck.
Nope.
Cats are funny walkers like strange detectives. What a great expression. Wow, that's a beautiful sentence, Show Media. It's a great little poem there. And no, it's just coincidence they happen to be two in close succession. I still don't dish it out very often. That's great. Cats are funny walkers like strange detectives.
It creates such a visual.
Wow, it's great. It makes me want to write a song that starts like that or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a friendly number though. It's got soft edges, it's rendered extra friendly here. Although the 9's more squared off than it could be, I guess. This is more looks like an E and a G almost.
Yeah, it does.
But regardless, it's kind of fat numbers too, so it's kind of soft looking. That makes it look non-threatening. It's like the chubby SFJ mom. So, anyway, apparently I'm an ESTJ.
Oh, yes, that's right. ESTJ. That's why I never talk. It's not because I just never talk in general. It's because you're an ESTJ and we're...
What are we? What do they make
Conflict.
us? Conflictors.
Yeah, conflictors. Conflictors!
I actually made a video of this for a short, but I was like, no, it's too gross looking.
Really?
Yeah, it said, if you think I'm an ESTJ, maybe you need to see my kitchen. I showed the floor up to this is before you cleaned it too.
Oh my gosh.
Independently of me making that video or thinking about it, Rachel, I guess, had enough with the filthy sink and I started scrubbing out with it. scrub sponge.
I was curious if it would, like, be scrub offable, but some of the stains are there for...
We got bleach somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, not that.
Not
but,
that?
But we do have
There's bleach
somewhere.
underneath the sink.
Yeah. Gotta use that. You see zero conflict? Yeah. I know, right. What's SI8 like? You experience universality? I can't put it into words.
I can't put it into words either, really. I do get defensive over it. Right now I'm doing the laundry and I set alarms to remind me that I'm doing the laundry, so they don't forget it and move it over to the dryer. I take baths pretty infrequently. Only when I feel like very oily or dirty. Or if I feel like I need to like shave my legs, something like that. And then I'm like, it's like kind of work. Like I do find that I'm happy while I'm in there, but I don't tend to take my time, which I probably should do more. But I do get defensive about my SI.
The other thing is, you don't SI anyway when you're SIing. So when you're in the bath, you're listening to something.
Mm-hmm.
When you're lying down and going to sleep, you're listening to something.
Yep.
And when you're eating, you're worried about whether you're wanting to get food from this shared plate is interfering with my wanting to get food from the shared plate, or you're eating and watching TV or something concurrently. And whenever I ask you about your body or like how you're feeling and stuff, you give me strange answers that aren't answers that make any sense to an SI person. It's like, how could you not know that? But I know how she could not know that. She doesn't know because it's flat. It's like when I tried to talk to Chloe yesterday about her feelings. Boy, was that a waste of time. That girl has no idea what I'm even talking about. She's 8 slot FI. 8 slot is super unconscious.
Super unconscious.
So.
But it's like that I feel like you don't judge me on my SI very much.
No. I'm not interested. Well, that's 4-8, right? Neither of us like having pressure placed on our SI. So we're both FETI types, which means we expect reciprocal burdens. We're going to be like, I know I don't want my SI pushed on. If I push on hers, that'll justify her pushing on mine. I don't want that. And also, like, just a basic, like, well, I wouldn't want her telling me what to meow about meow.
That's totally fair. You know my pain, Karma's Poon? Thank you. It's nice to not feel alone.
Yeah, I take baths if stickiness supersedes my comfort as well. Do I shave if I feel FE pressure? I don't. I mean, I think Rachel and I could, in theory, pressure each other into a variety of things with FE stuff, but the reason it's a good relationship is because we don't.
I don't like to. I tend to act out when someone expresses a preference in my aesthetics. Like, that might not be fair, but I feel like, well, you're with me, why should I look a different way? Like aren't you with... Because I'm so with the person because, like, I like a mental compatibility, although we hit all, like, physical and intellectual, which is really nice to have with physical.
I mean, shaving in response to FE realities is different than shaving in response to FE pressure. So if you know you're going to go out on the first date, obviously you're going to get yourself all cleaned up and stuff before you go. That's not about FE pressure. That's just you choosing to be FE proactive and not and avoid potential FE problems like you stink or you're gross looking. So I would not say that's responding to FE pressure. Responding to FE pressure is like if I say to Rachel, "Ooh, are you sure you want to wear that?"
Oof. Ooh. That hurts. Because I'm like, that's my tool. I'm trying to use that as like a way to create discussion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do too, Audra. I have what I call like SI reset, where I go take a bath and eat some food and focus on taking care of myself for a bit. And as far as SE stuff, like impactful stuff, well, I wouldn't, not every day, but we do have various errands we gotta run and shit. And we usually get the ones, like we had to get more fish food because we were out and we can't just let the fish starve. So we went and got that done. And fortunately they were open even though it was Easter Sunday. Because some other places around it were closed. You know that Best Buy was closed on?
Best Buy was closed on Easter.
Weird. I guess they went to watch Christ rise from the dead.
Just think about pooping out. On my calendar on my phone, it says it's Easter Monday. I didn't know that, like, it went into Monday.
It took Christ a long time to rise from the dead.
Like Fred.
Is he just standing there? No, I think he's levitating a little bit. Oh, he's going up? I know, it's like watching a plant grow, but yeah, I think he is very slowly going up. It took like several days of Christ standing there glowing like this, floating up into the sky before he actually got there.
That's hysterical. Do you think that which one of them would tie a rope at the end and try to pull it down?
The Romans, I guess.
The Romans.
Didn't that last crucifixion take? What, do we need to do it again?
Hey, Mac Daddy.
The natural oils of your body are the best oils for you. Okay, well, I don't feel any particular need to be oily, you know? I don't think that being more oily falls into the good or bad category. It's whatever your preference is if you like feeling oily, then that's fine. But I don't like feeling oily.
Yeah,
I feel myself, and when I start feeling oily, then I go like, ew, I need to take a bath. I'm super gross, look at
Yeah.
I'll rub the back behind my ear and I'll smell it to see if I need to take a bath. I think I'm fine.
My forehead will get like itchy because it's so oily. And then it'll like get into my hair. And I'm like, yeah, I really do need a shower.
I think like about half the time I take a bath is because I want to have sexual intercourse.
Yeah.
And half the time it's because I want to SI reset. But yeah, SE stuff is hard to say whether... It's really hard to plan to do SE stuff. I mean, you can, but it's like, if you're planning to do some SE thing during your discretionary time, you're just as likely to do something else. Polar's not entirely incapable. The thing is, it's like when a person is most happy in life and most successful in life, they're incorporating all four of their absolute values. When you could just say, what grade are you getting in life? You know, if you're getting an A, you're incorporating all four of your absolute values as absolute values. If you're getting a B, you're incorporating 1, 3, and 5. If you're getting a C, you're incorporating 1 and 3. And presumably, I don't know how this would happen. I guess if you're getting a D, you're just incorporating 1 and 2 and treating 2 as an absolute value.
I was at that point where I was just using my FE like way too much. It became draining because my tool.
Yeah, well, your circumstances were purposefully demanding it of you.
Right.
Just to make your life less pleasant or something.
Yeah.
So, fuck those people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fuck 'em, yeah. With them, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. All night. Tonight.
Yeah.
Till the morning light. What were the questions you had? Well, I mean, I was asking Chloe, about. See, her mom says to me things like, Chloe's expressing that she's having some kind of distress about school or whatever, like FI stuff. When I ask her about it, it's clear she doesn't even like get the question, you know? Whereas even though I'm FI polar, I understand the question better. It's like on some level, I'm less likely. I can identify my polar better because it expresses as what I hate operationally. So, in that regard, okay, yeah, good idea, Jake. So I was asking her basically about what she felt about school and what's going on, and she like doesn't know. She's got no idea. You see the polar most powerfully in how it impacts your relationship with the eighth. So what Og and I don't know is what we're going to do later, unless we've got something scheduled that involves some other party. We might tell ourselves, like I told myself that during the time period that it includes right now, that I would go call and make an appointment for this haircut for my mom that's going to happen next week. But I didn't put it on my calendar, but I didn't do it. I will at some point today. I'll get to it at some point. But I can't tell you exactly when, how, why, whatever. Maybe I'll do it right now, you know?
Yeah, let's do it.
Just call the lady. See, she's probably in the middle of giving a haircut, but I'll call her anyway and see what she says.
They sometimes, yeah.
So what date do we want? We want the Monday, this upcoming Monday. What date is that? That's the 25th? Yeah.
So.
Okay, so let me call this lady. Okay. This is a good way to get it done, you know. This is totally a good.
Barbershop.
Hi, my name's Eric Strauss. I'd like to make an appointment for my mother, Jane Strauss. You cut her hair once before. She's in a wheelchair for next Monday, the 25th.
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah. What time you do? Appointment?
Yeah, can I get an appointment? I want to make an appointment for my mom, Jane Strauss. You cut her hair before. She's in a wheelchair.
Okay.
And I want to make it for next Monday, the 25th at 11 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Alright.
That's that's part of the job.
That is part of the job. It
Now I
feels
gotta
good.
call this other people. Let me call the other people too. Let's just get it done.
Yeah, you're right. Let's get it done.
I gotta call these people now. Okay. Pia pia pia. Pia pia pia. Pia pia pia. Pia. Hi, this is Eric Strauss. I'd like to schedule a pickup for my mom, Jane Strauss, from Sunrise.
Oh, sure. Let me see. For what day were you thinking of?
The 25th, Monday the 25th.
Monday the 25th. Okay. Where is she going?
She's-
Cheesecake Factory again? Or-
No, this time again to the Cloverly Barbershop to get her hair cut.
Oh, the haircut place. Okay. What time do you want us to schedule the pickup?
10:45.
At 10:45, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put it in. And we already have the information for the haircut, so, okay.
Okay, cool.
So 10:45 for
Monday the
Monday
20th.
the 25th.
Right. Cool.
Okay, we got it in.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Sure, come on.
Yay.
Another thing done.
There's no reason to call Sunrise now. They're going to forget about
Yes,
it.
they are gonna forget, but
Okay. So, Jaxie, the most correct answer to your question is no. I would not say that MBTI is a culture or community.
I like that. Communicate. That's what Connecticut really actually is communicate.
Yeah, it's MBTI is it's an assessment that purports to accurately describe a person's type based on their self-reporting. But of course, that's not a good way to type people, and you're not going to be very correct about it. And if you want to have it be meaningfully a way to inform our understanding of people and provide a better frame for psychology in general, then we need to understand more robustly than MBTI provides an explanation of the mechanics of cognitive functions, and that's not something MBTI provides. Although, you know, what you say is MBTI is an attempt to implement a conceptual map that didn't work out. You know, it's an approach that proved not the right explanation for a fundamentally true notion. Right? For something that's observationally so, that people pay attention in different ways and habitually pay attention in the same ways they usually do. It was a failed attempt to explain that. It's probably the most complete way to put it. So, what type do I think Melissa Talks is? I don't really know. I've hypothesized maybe ESTJ, but I don't really know.
yeah, I don't really know either. It's really hard to type people without actually giving them test questions. Like the hardest way to type someone like is right now in the chat. It's really hard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look to see if there's something I could heat up.
Oh yeah, I had a couple of cans of different stuff last night.
Oh.
Maybe grab us a couple like soups or something, or cans
Okay.
of stuff. I don't know. good new song, man. You're a huge fan. Well, Rachel and I do want to record Wonderful, Wonderful Kitty. I think it's going to be a good cut. I think it's going to be a good track. It's a good song. It gets stuck in my head all the time. It's one of the most earwormy songs I think I've ever written. Whether that makes it one of the best ones or something is another question, but it's hard to stop singing it. And the chorus is perfect for it, which is the only part of it that was really written with any instrument other than my voice. Yeah, it is hard to chat. It is hard to type somebody without typing them. That's the point. People want to use these type labels to as like wholesale dismissals or something, which doesn't work no matter how that dismissal is angled. If you want to use a type label as a wholesale dismissal of any kind of concrete linkage to empirics, then you're going to say, like, I don't know, Self-Help Lounge. Is he here? I don't know if he's here or not. But regardless, I think he's still claiming he's an INTP, but he's clearly TI polar. I mean, and he, like, he's one of those almost certainly ESFPs who successfully gets me to assess them for free somehow a little bit, And so I said, well, I can check your TI right now if you want, because he was an ENTP. He said, yeah, okay, and he got none of them right, and then he continued to just insist, well, it doesn't matter, I'm still an ENTP. So it's like, he's got a really good attitude about it. Like, he doesn't hate me, he's not against me. He's a nice guy, super nice guy, and just perfectly okay with just failing all the TI tests and saying, it doesn't matter, I'm still an ENTP. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, what can you say to that? I guess I'm not going to tell you that you can't say that about yourself. But I don't know what to say at that point. It's not like he's pushing back and saying, no, he did do well in the TI questions. He's acknowledging it, but he says it doesn't matter. And he doesn't even make an argument like, it doesn't matter because TI questions don't actually link to TI, which would be a TI response. He just doesn't say anything. It doesn't matter, Rain, you're obviously not ESFP. Yeah, I identify as an ENTP. It's not the same as I am an ENTP. And people don't get that. And even if they do identify as an ENTP, if they're saying it like that, then they're missing the whole point. You don't get to identify as a type. It's not like that kind of thing. It's not like race or gender or some dumb shit like that is arbitrary. This is an actual description of your actual configuration. It's not the case that your truck is also a car and a boat, right? You might call it a car, you might call it a boat, but she identifies as a boat. Well, that doesn't change the fact that she sinks on water and rolls on the highway. So it's like she can identify as a boat and go drive her car to the marina and tell the dockmaster, hey, you need to let me sail my boat too. And see what happens. I mean, that's the problem. Is if you insist your car is a boat, that's fine, but don't try to convince other people to get in your car because you're going to go for a nice sail. Well, Mr. Peter Golem, let me tell you that the FE tests are not definitive. So it is not the case that there's a uniform inability to express sarcasm by FE Polar. Some FE Polar people can do it. Although if you're experienced and nuanced in understanding how sarcasm expresses, ISTJs, even if they have a theater degree, like his ISTJ I typed the other day, he didn't let me publish. He did something that was kind of like sarcastic, but it wasn't what I would call your textbook sarcastic, like, tone, you know. INTJs are more likely to be able to do it right than ISTJs, but only if they are accustomed to working in that realm of thing, right? But in general, what an FE Polar person says, like, when they go, like, if they're trying to express sarcasm, it's not going to come across as textbook sarcasm to the person who's hearing it. And there's a decent chance that the FE Polar person is misconstruing the extent to which what they've been attempted to communicate has been communicated. Too much talking, not enough thinking. You know, it's not only that she says we do this and we do that in her videos. She also does that in her poll questions. She asks poll questions as though she's talking to a community of ENTPs. It's really weird. That was you, Drake? Okay, cool. Eric, I knew this one INTJ woman who, for example, would ask a yes-no question, and if the askee nodded or shook their head, there's only about a 30% chance of her registering it, so she'd ask again as if she was ignored. Now that's some FE Polar. That is some FE Polar. Well, they want confirmation. I mean, I can understand that, though. Like, I might want confirmation too. Like, well, can you say it? Say it out loud, please, in a word, so I can hear it. And I can, rather than having to say, well, you nodded or you shook your head when I reference it later. Because I want people to say things so I can quote people when they say things, whereas it's harder if they just express something physically. I mean, if I say you nodded, the other person can say, well, couldn't it just be that I was looking down? Are you sure I nodded? Oh, you nodded. Okay. Am I nodding now? No. Well, how do you define nod then? You see what happens with physical expressions of meow? Well, sure, because we use language to pin people in place when we're using it instrumentally for our own purposes. Like, if there's a problem at a restaurant where some people come through the salad bar and just grab the salad with their hand or something, There's gonna be a. There's gonna be a. Thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
That's great. Thanks. You need the camera away from your face. You do just fine with the camera. You do great with the camera. I really liked that Aga's Wacky Faces video. that was fun. I think it was Karma's Pimp who said she's gonna be mad at you. I was like, she's not gonna be mad at me about that. I don't think so. Were you? Were you mad at me about that? I thought it was great. You're so expressive, you know. I think we here's me talking for all ENTPs. I think we in general are quite expressive. We may be playing it more successfully playing it cool or less successfully playing it cool, you know. It has happened multiple times to me that someone would joke sarcastically and I'd get so offended or even start a fight before realizing it was a joke. And then you're like, it didn't sound sarcastic enough. I didn't get that it was a joke. It wasn't obvious. It was probably, well, it may not have been. I mean, sometimes people use that excuse of it was a joke. I do it too, you know. I'm super expressive too. There's this video called Host Eric Yells at People, in which I'm making the most ridiculously overblown responses to what somebody says. Like, somebody's like, well, I think, man, I'm like, oh my God, how could you? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, who reacts like that? I mean, it's what happens when you're bipolar, and then you start thinking all of F is about its communicative half, right? So it's not that these are untrue feelings or something that I'm just acting. It's that I never intuited or got the idea originally that one's emotional displays are supposed to link to an actual feeling. I just thought they're supposed to convey what feelings your language is supposed to convey, right? So that if I think something is dumb, then I need to convey that by looking at like you just committed genocide, right? Like, oh, the disgust and disdain I feel for your horrible wretchedness, you know? Even though all they did was say some dumbass shit, right? So, well, I know you don't. I'm saying you might be susceptible to that, though. So it's like the problem with epipolar is that if it's not a joke, or if it was presented as a joke but it was really intended as a mean comment, then you're very susceptible to somebody saying it was a joke. How do you know it was or not, right? So they could be saying a succession of mean things intended to be mean, and then trying to get you to think that you're wrong about whether or not they're mean, because you went ape shit when the witness you were cross-examining started coming up with BS reasons. Yeah, it's very annoying, right? And the thing is, I have to. I'm getting better at keeping my cool about that shit, but it drives me crazy too. The thing is, it's all about pinning and not getting off task. It's like, okay, your job here as this annoying, super annoying person not answering my questions is to get me off task. My job is to pin you to where you have to answer some straightforward questions, right? And the nice thing about cross-examining a witness is whatever answers they give, you get to ask them more questions for at least some stretch of time. So you got to be prepared to follow up on wherever they're going to try to take you with their answers. Like when I'm asking questions, I don't necessarily know why I'm asking it. I'm just asking a question that I think is going to open up a good, you know, I can no more explain why I ask a certain question in full than a chess person can explain why they moved that piece there in full, you know? It is a variety of reasons specific to the instance of argumentation going on and other things like that. But as long as I'm able to ask questions and have the person respond to the question, then I can always hammer the fact that they're not being actually responsive, and by asking the same question again and again, trying to get them to actually respond to it. That's if they're being non-responsive. There's different ways that people can scuttle, you know. Soup. We've been having a lot of soup lately. Or I guess I have. I had 2 cans of soup last night after Rachel went to bed. I had the second one was like spicy chicken soup, spicy chicken chowder kind of stuff. You know, maybe I guess it was kind of like it was like a chicken menudo. What's that stuff called? Basole. The first one was oh right. The second one though, it had beans in it. It was like chicken chili, really. Like chicken chili. But with like menudo broth. Hello, oh yeah. Thank you for wishing me a nice meal. Oh yeah.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. All night. Tonight. To the morning light. Girl, baby, girl. Darling girl, baby, child, woman, baby, darling girl, woman, child, baby, girl, woman, child, darling girl.
That's ending at its finest. Thanks, oh yeah.
Soup's a good meal for a toothless old man like me.
It is.
To what extent are you in alignment with Galenka's model? Well, it's not a model, right? Galenka doesn't have a model. He calls it a model, but it's not a model because it doesn't actually model things in a way that's simulatable.
Hello, Winston's mom.
Probably it's true that people who are bipolar are more likely than others to talk in a monotone voice, but they don't necessarily. Imagine if trolls came in here with fake accounts just to wish Eric and Rachel a happy meal. They wouldn't really be trolls then, would they? They'd be like anti-trolls. They go around and just say nice things to people randomly. You're a master level finger snapper.
Thank you. I've been practicing for years.
In general, she's an excellent creative partner. Like she'll roll with whatever I'm going to roll with. You know.
I love that too. I love being in a creative environment. Like I flourish in in the environment that I'm in now, because Eric is so creative, and he wants me to be a part of his projects. And it's, you know, like I listen to like YouTubes that do tarot pick a card, and obviously like I can't be too serious about that sort of stuff, but whenever there is a reading about enjoying the creative field, it always resonates with what I'm doing at the current moment. You know, whether we're doing something with Mindy's Club, or live streaming now, or making music. It's a really nice environment. I can use my snapping fingers to the max.
So, you know, it's like, Mindy's Club, I want to talk a little bit about that. It's, YouTube seems to be giving none of the Mindy's Club shorts any chance on the shorts feed anymore, as far as I can tell. So, that's pretty frustrating, you know?
Yeah, it is.
At the same time, I want to continue making that because I'm invested in it as a project. Like, I'm invested in the storylines, I'm invested in the characters, etc. But it's like, at a certain point, if being shorts affords it no more attention, if they just get treated like long form videos, they have no chance of the shorts feed, then I'm not really sure why I'm using that medium exactly.
Right.
You know?
Because it's not going to go anywhere. I mean, it's made purposely for entertainment.
You're doing fine, Jake. I'll tell you right now. That's not why she listens to them. She listens to them because she's NI, you know? She wants to constantly be receiving things that resonate as universal truths.
Yeah.
And those kind of things are a way to render people's experience into an expression of universalities. I could.
Oh. Melissa squawks. I like that.
I probably wouldn't be that unsubtle about the linkage, but it's not a bad idea to have characters based on them that have more vague linkages than that.
Aw, Jake Forrest thanks Eric for the affirmation.
You go for the ones that say, "What is God trying to tell you?" I just noticed that I treat using my TI-6 just like I treat numbers in English over Portuguese, my first language. It's clunkier, slower, makes my head hurt, and feels unnecessary. Yeah, that's what I think about TE. It's like, if somebody would call me an ESTJ is, you've got to have no concept of a variety of things to successfully call me an ESTJ. in that video where I respond to Jeff Shaw's comment by saying smart people delegate advocacy, I think NT Somewhere put it perfectly. NT Somewhere wrote a comment that basically says, what you're seeing here is Eric's TE6 annoyedly coming into play because his TI is getting ignored.
That's a good observation.
But really, it was still basically a TI point. I put it in kind of a TE way, like, or an SE way, like, it's more effective, you'll be more effective than by having somebody who's an expert at advocacy advocate. But the thing is, the TI point, which is like, we would never say that to somebody who was in a physically abusive relationship. Well, now that you're out of that relationship, I expect you to go fight your own battle with that person and have a fist fight with them because you're no longer disadvantaged situationally, so it'll be a fair fight. It's insane, right? If you get some woman who's being beaten up by her husband or something, you would say, no, you should never have to engage on that level with that person again, and in that modality, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what we're talking about with, on the metaphysical side, with Rachel. They abused language to abuse her for a long ass time, expecting her, now that she's liberated from that environment, to be able to successfully defeat them in terms of use of language is unreasonable and insane. It's something that makes no sense at all. Why would Rachel suddenly be able to handle the discursive elements of this, having heretofore been subject to all of this discursive assault by these people?
It's uncool.
So I do get, though, that it's a vulnerability, and this is why I tend to be reactive to it and put up videos and stuff, is that it's a vulnerability that's implicit in me being the way I am, Rachel being the way she is,
Yeah.
that people are going to be able to try to paint that as some kind of unhealthy relationship between us, even though it totally is not indicative of that. But you can paint any particular good expression as somehow bad because the particularist elements of it don't line up with some universalist thing. It's like you can always come up with something like that, so it's not really very meaningful. That sounds like too much any valuing, Jake. Too much any, like, you want not only to have the TI correct thing, but you want to be the origin of the ideas about it as well, you know? You know, it's like TI with SE functions much more purely in some sense than it does with NE, because TI is supposed to be a get function where we're getting information so we know whether something's bullshit, right? We're asking questions and determining whether something's bullshit. But DI with NE ends up being, we want to be the author of non-bullshit. And ENTP, a basic fundamental ENTP struggle is when and where to learn and when and where to act. There are certain things that need to be TE'd, like being a classroom teacher. I had to learn by imitating the process of the master teacher who had hired me, and basically implement his protocols, right? And I did learn by doing that. And well, once I did it exactly the way he wanted it done, I could deviate from it. But that was a come to Jesus moment for me, where I had to realize, okay, Eric, you don't know here. You're not right here, because this isn't that kind of thing. And what you need to do is be humble and learn from this guy and do it like he says, and try to be a good employee, and stop using your NETI about everything. I didn't know those terms at the time, but that's basically what I had to tell myself. And it was extremely valuable for me, even though it doesn't take me long. It doesn't take me long to learn things when I devote myself to learning them. But devoting yourself to learning something means acknowledging that this isn't going to be a particularly ideationally rich process for me in the moment. I'm going to have to have learned all the stuff, then process it, and then it'll be useful to me. Rachel is too socially gracious, and most people interpret it as a weakness. Well, she is, I would say, like, she's got a very defense-oriented form of FE that comes from, I'm sure, it's been shaped somewhat by growing up in this household of people that, some of whom seem to like to take advantage of any mistake she made in order to get her, Who are you talking about? Public person? I don't know who that is. When you value GE, you find it so cool to interface with whatever protocols are already established at the place, then manipulate those protocols to better optimize the process. I believe it. It sounds like a good way to do things. In fact, I think an ISTJ would have been absolutely thrilled to learn how to do a classroom the way that I had to learn how to do it, which was to watch his class, write down everything he did, imitate it in my own class as closely to exactly the same as I could. And well, who was it though, Master Bobby? We don't play that game, okay? Just say it or don't, Oh, plug. I don't know. I don't think that doesn't make any sense. I don't think he's talking about that. That's fine. You can believe Michael Jackson was innocent. I mean, it depends on what crime, right? It's like, I'm not sure what anybody's exactly accusing him of. I don't think he was. I don't think Michael Jackson represents a healthy expression of deviation from societal norms. Put it that way. Well, I guess when I say imitating is like it was a very ordinated out curriculum. So it's like first you introduce this concept by, and then you have them recite these sentences, and then you have them uh, diagram examples on the board, and then you assign them five sentences you write on the board from the diagram to their desk, and as they complete it, they bring it up to you and you check it off, and then you have this assignment that they work on afterwards as a verb sheet. If they finish that, early. If they don't, then they have that for homework. It was like there's a specific succession of steps that you had to implement that one could implement well or poorly. If you implemented it well, you got through everything that you're supposed to get through in that hour, and maybe had a little time extra at the end for kids to finish their homework. If you let yourself get pulled off in tangents and shit, then you're not going to get through the shit, I don't have any moonwalk, unfortunately. I don't know what type MJ was. It's like ISFP doesn't sound completely unreasonable, but what's up with the weird fixation on FE stuff, like his plastic surgery and stuff, And then he seems to not have a clear understanding of what's actually going to make him happy because he's buying all this shit all the time. He kind of seems almost... I don't know what type it was. He was obviously damaged by his upbringing. Although, one would ask, why weren't the other ones damaged equivalently then? So, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it was all the attention he got so young or something like that. He was a tortured soul for sure. I don't feel any hatred towards the guy or anything. I don't think that... I don't think healthy adults act like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair to say. I don't know where that link is you're talking about. So, I don't know. It probably worked. Boba Fett's probably just did it wrong. That washes right out. What link are you talking about? From the live stream? That one says want Eric to type you. I think I might have gotten rid of the thing you're talking about. Yeah, I think I got rid of the thing you're talking about, maybe. It used to be on the About page, I got rid of it. I'm not running any special. Well, the point is, I don't know for sure what happened with MJ. And I am insinuating that no healthy adult acts like he acts. That doesn't seem to me to be a healthy relationship with a healthy adult relationship with kids. Remember, I'm the kind of teacher that starts his class. I like to hang out with kids, but I also started my classes with neither I nor any of my assistant coaches or any staff here will ever touch you, will ever initiate physical contact with you. That means no hand on the shoulder, blah, 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 and here's why, and then I explain bodily integrity. So, I like hanging out with kids, and I hang out with kids in a healthy way, the way that a healthy adult does. Right? I don't try to pretend I am a child, and I don't try to get like there is healthy intimacy between adults and children, usually parents and their children, where they sleep in the same bed and stuff like that. But that's not something that you begin. That's something that tapers off as the child ages, right? Well, sure. And there are plenty of times when kids run up to me or something after a tournament and hug me, either because I'm crying, because they're unhappy about something, or because they're so happy because they won, right? And I'm not going to push those kids away or something. That's why I say I don't initiate physical contact, right? If it naturally occurs, I'm not going to be a dick, right?
Yeah.
And that's called being smart about where to draw your lines, you know?
Yeah.
It's called being smart. It's being smart and responsible about where to draw your lines.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he's guilty or not. I just know that regardless of if he's guilty of a crime or something, he definitely was actively kind of blurring the lines, you might say, between mentor type relationships and friend type relationships in a way that can occur as the kids grow older. Like I've grown into something of a regular friendship with my ex-debater David Dosh, but he's now in his 20s, you know? It's not like I wanted to go hang out with the kids and play kids stuff with them when we didn't have shared business, you know? Even with my own child, I had to kind of go, yes, I want to play with you. Even though I didn't really want to play with you that much, you know. ESTJ has resting bitch face for sure. My dad has total resting bitch face. You walk up to my dad at any point, he's looking at you. He's looking through you, really, but he's looking at you with this facial expression of contempt and disgust. And you go, okay, what did I do? And then you walk up to him and he's like, oh, hello. I wanted to tell you, I got a nice email from Malamount today. I was not expecting that based on your facial expression. I was expecting something totally different. I mean, I guess the core question I would have is this. I understand wanting to defend those who are not guilty of things against false accusations. I totally respect that. But we're talking about somebody who's dead, and really the only issue at hand anymore that's relevant to anything is, did that represent a generally acceptable approach towards an adult having a relationship with kids? And the answer is no. So whatever the other specifics are seem irrelevant. It's like you're fixated so much on defending the man. Is your position other than that? Well, I mean, he's dead, so what does it matter to him anymore? It's not quite the same thing as slandering a living person, in which you've got that person really still has interest in the matter. Michael Jackson no longer has any interest in the matter, he's dead. So the only thing that makes the matter interesting is is the meaning we make about what it tells us about healthy or unhealthy relationships, not about whether or not he committed a crime, right? The facts don't really matter very much at this point. Well, there is something called that, but well, no, it's not, Master Bob, because you're not defending someone anymore. You don't seem to get that when a person dies, they're no longer someone. They're no longer existent. Obviously, it's much worse to defame somebody who's alive and can experience the consequences of that information than to misrepresent somebody who's dead. And they don't need to defend themselves anymore, Bobby, because they're dead. Doy. It's like, hey, why are you chopping up that steak? That poor dead cow can't defend itself. Because it's not a cow anymore, dum-dum. It's a steak now. Again, Master Bobby, defamation, smearing is bad because why? Because the party being smeared or defamed has to experience and live in a world of those lies created that negatively causes people to deal with them in negative ways unfairly, right? If somebody's dead, there's no longer any actualization of consequence. Doy!
Except for Jesus, right? Because he rose again.
That's true, he did. Well, the fact is, regardless of what those relatives and such think, we are all correct to conclude that Michael Jackson did not exemplify a healthy relationship between adults and children. And that's the only takeaway we need to really take away from it. We are all correct to conclude that. Whether they feel bad because of that or not is irrelevant. There's nothing defaming about that, right? There's nothing defaming about that at all. So, that's an accurate interpretation of the matter. Now, how strongly people feel sketched out by that is another matter. And then whether or not people stupidly take it out on people who aren't Michael Jackson is yet a third matter, right? The fact that you have something to do with Michael Jackson doesn't mean I should condemn you as also being guilty of having bad relationships with children. That's Michael Jackson's problem, not yours. Well, again, Master Bobby, if people feel kind of ew about Michael Jackson, it's understandable because, as we were all in agreement about, remember, he didn't have a healthy relationship with children. Regardless of whether it manifests as a crime or not, it wasn't healthy. It wasn't something we ought to hold up as an acceptable deviance from social norms. So, that's all there is to it, okay? So just deal with it. Stop being weirdly, unnecessarily protective of Michael Jackson of all people. Why? It's like, it doesn't really matter if he did something wrong. He was definitely being weird and gross.
There was definitely something going on there.
For the reasons I've already articulated, Master Bobby, you can't generate intimate relationship that's healthy between an adult and a child, it has to originate that way and then taper off. So obviously parents have a lot of physical closeness with their child and stuff. And Delilah slept in my bed until she was like 10 years old. You know, she'd go back and forth between her room and my room. She felt like she got scared at night or whatever. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's because she was my daughter, and it started off that way from the beginning and tapered off as she got older and got less comfortable with it, you know? And it happened naturally. That's not an unhealthy relationship. If I'm an adult male and doing that with somebody else's child, there's a problem there. There's a real problem there. I'm directing my intimate urges that ought to be directed towards other adults, towards children, regardless of whether it manifests in actual criminal activity or not. No, it's not a waste of time to explain it. I'm somebody who's had lots of healthy relationships with lots of kids. I've been a teacher for my entire career until YouTube, until recently. And nobody's ever even looked askance at me and my relationship with kids, even though I'm very enthusiastic and in a lot of ways childlike myself and enjoy time that I spend with them, you know? And will tell parents, I need your kids this weekend because I'm doing extra coaching sessions and stuff like that, you know? But as a consequence, I understand where boundaries lie between, say, family and friends and other people's kids and stuff like that. Those boundaries exist for a good reason. If an adult male is seeking to spend his intimate personal time with children, that's a red flag, right? Like, that's not how it's supposed to go down. And we shouldn't treat it as though we're normal or normalize it in any way. And you should be in full agreement with that. There's nothing thick-headed about this. There's nothing thick-headed. I mean, it just sounds like him finding a crop of willing participants. You know, it doesn't sound to me like you're talking about his behavior at all, right? Oh no, you definitely are, Bobby. You brought it up again today. You brought it up before. It's a big issue for you, and you just don't like it now that I've established that you're wrong. Now you want to change the subject because you don't want to live in this puddle of wrongness that you've poured out here for us all to tromp through. Okay, again, one would have to wonder why. Okay, so then maybe you need to ask yourself why you're so eager to support this man. And don't pretend like you're not. This is not the first time you brought it up. You are eager to. So maybe you should ask yourself why. There are people who deserve defense much more robustly than Michael Jackson does, because regardless of the specs, he wasn't up to something that's, if nothing else, he was remarkably unwilling to read the room, you know? No, Master Bobby, we don't want to be convinced of Michael Jackson's innocence because it's irrelevant. Why do you not get this, right? It's like, whether or not he pushed it so far too far that it comprised a crime isn't relevant to the question of whether or not he pushed it too far, which is absolutely yes. And that's what you seem to just ignore this. How it is you manage to ignore my words that are so powerfully convincing I do not know. You're willfully choosing to cling to a boulder of wrongness that continues to drive you to the bottom of the ocean for no reason that I can ascertain. It's that it doesn't really matter whether the guy went so much too far that it constitutes a crime, or whether he just went too far in general and it just constitutes creepiness. In either circumstance, we wouldn't want to affirm his behavior. It's not an area where we want to affirm edginess or line crossing. Now, I'm not convinced of that either. Like show media, if you want to talk, let's switch the topic to another topic that's related, sort of, which is Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. Amber Heard is 100% at fault. Johnny Depp is 100% not at fault, and Amber Heard's a horrible person. And that's very cut and dry, to me. This is my opinion, right? Based on my read of her. I don't want to say X without saying X. I'm pointing out that it doesn't really matter in retrospect whether his behavior constituted a crime or not, because there's consensus on the larger issue that's informative regarding how we should treat him in terms of if we choose to evaluate him as a historical character or something, we don't invalidate him as a harmless, misunderstood artist, but rather as a creepy motherfucker. At best. And that's fine. Right. We wouldn't want to affirm that. That's not an area, like, boundaries between adults and children is not an area where we want to be edgy or play around with the fact that deviance in this area is an acceptable way for people to be deviant, right? It's like there are lots of ways in which people can deviate from norms and claim that this is a perfectly reasonable expression of self, even if it disagrees with your societal norm. That is not one such area. And even if he was just blurring those lines, there's no reason why society should affirm blurring those lines. Like, adults shouldn't be spending their time playing with children. It is true that when I'd go to the parties at like David Dosh's house or something, I'd end up hanging out with the kids instead of the adults. But we just like walk around and smoke cigarettes and then we chat about whatever, you know. Because I found the adult conversation at those parties boring because the adults weren't really intuitives, you know, and the kids were intuitives at least. So in that regard, I get wanting to hang out with the kids instead of boring ass adults if the kids are interesting. But those were specifically debaters, right? So they're going to be more interesting. Maybe we can talk debate, whereas the parents are going to be talking about like their fucking timeshares and their annuities and stuff like that. It's like, okay, you guys are boring. Oh my god, you people are boring. You're so boring. Well, I mean, I would also say that his weird obsession with plastic surgery is indicative of something not healthy, a non-healthy expression of self, right? I don't think people who... There are some circumstances where somebody might get plastic surgery and it be a perfectly healthy expression of self. If there's something very specific that's the individual authentically wants different and it's not a big, huge operation or something like that, then totally fine. I get it. It'll happen. If you got cleft lip or something, obviously reparative surgery is called for. But the way Michael Jackson approached plastic surgery suggested he didn't think his face was right. You know, that there was something wrong with him. There was never anything wrong with the way he looked in the first place, right? So he was definitely tortured. He was definitely a tortured soul, tortured man, whatever somebody else said there. Well, I mean, look, there are contexts where it's appropriate for an adult to play with kids too. So if you're at a party and it's like a kid's party or something, your uncle, whatever, and you want to play with it, depends how little. There's a lot of different factors, right? It's a complicated metric. The point is, Michael Jackson didn't respect the complication of that metric at all, and that's one of the reasons why we ought to not affirm his approach, because he treated something as simpler than it was, right? And whenever one's dishonest about things like that, either dishonest or just incapable of being correct, because sometimes people are just incapable of being correct and they're not being dishonest, right? But when you're either dishonest or incapable about being correct about something like that, whether something's simpler or more or less simple than you say it is, if you get stuck in that frame of reference, you're never going to figure it out. Like, this is simpler than you think it is, Master Bobby. And at the same time, the reasoning is more NI than you think, then you're going to be easily reducible. This is an NIFE thing, it's an NISI thing, it's an NITI thing. Because I know I'm not ESTJ, Raphael. That was kind of a joke, because I've been accused of being ESTP before, I've been accused of being ESFJ, I've been accused of being ISFJ, I've been accused of being INFP. I don't think I've ever been accused of being ESTJ before, though. And if you saw my kitchen, you wouldn't think I was ESTJ either. Because it's filthy. It's absolutely filthy. Well, so that's the thing ultimately, Bobby, is one has to acknowledge that there's a nuanced response required of people. I sometimes have been frustrated in the past myself with being unable to say simple sentences like, yeah, I really like kids, I like hanging out with them, without people looking at you kind of, even though it's true. But the thing is, like, I never brought kids back to my house or something, you know, and hung out with them there. Well, I get that. I get that your dad may have been upset at your mom saying, don't do that, it looks weird. But if your mom was right, he really should have been either upset at society for making his legitimate behavior seem illegitimate, or he should have been upset at himself for failing to recognize how his behavior was going to play, right? Even if he was totally well-intentioned. It's not your mom's fault for pointing out that that doesn't play well. I don't know what MJ specifically did. My point is, the things we do know that he did already cross some pretty bright lines about what's acceptable, okay? Yeah, that's what triggered me, Bobby. It's not the subject, it's your refusal to learn anything or gain any, or progress anywhere discursively. So even though I've been quite convincing about the matter, you don't seem to have moved from your position. Even though you should have at this point, because I've made it pretty clear that you're wrong. And look, there are some kinds of taboos that are arbitrary that we ought to, as a general rule, err on the side of the individual's expression, even if it seems to be in contradiction to societal norms. In dealings with kids, that's not really the case, because when we kind of look the other way and stuff, we end up with a bunch of Catholic priests molesting a bunch of people.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Jeff Shaw is condemning me as ESTJ has little to do with my behavior and everything to do with him running out of ways to get me. Well, my first response to that was going to be until I just put, did you get extra drunk for Easter, Jeff? But, I mean, in general, sex stuff is a little different than other stuff because people are creepy and weird about sex in general. And so when something looks like that, there's a better than normal chance that it is that than in other areas. You know, sex is inherently its own area of thing, and I don't know. If nothing else, Michael Jackson was an FE train wreck. Like, his marrying that woman and then, like, dangling his baby over her.
Yeah.
And it's like, did he really impregnate that woman? I mean, who knows, right? It's like, it was also so, I guess, demonstrative FE, trying ham-fistedly to control others' perceptions and just fucking it up left and right every other step of the way.
What's that?
I mean, it seems like demonstrative FE, like ESFP maybe, but I don't know. I don't know what type of Michael Jackson was. It's like that kind of stuff where you're doing something in order to convince people to perceive you as meh, and it's making me, I just see right through it, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, you're just making me cringe so hard.
Uh-huh.
I associate that with demonstrative FE,
Mm.
but it's not always that, you know. I'm just saying that's what I associate it with.
You see that?
No, I've seen the footage, you moron. Okay, he held it under its arm over the balcony.
Over the balcony.
I've
That's
seen
the
the
famous.
footage.
Me too.
And you're trying to claim that doesn't qualify as a dangle? I mean,
It was over
you've
the bar.
got to be fucking kidding me. Talk about reflexively defending the man no matter what I say. Okay, would you call it a hovering of the baby over the reporter?
He was in a hotel.
Would you call
like,
it a firmly grasped, well thought out decision to hold your baby outside of the balcony? You've been dangled over a ledge countless times. That explains it. That explains it. Okay, if you're accustomed to being dangled over ledges by your parents, then I get why you don't have your social norms down here.
Yes.
That is not normal.
That's
That was
not
not
normal.
normal, and your parents should not have done that.
It's very dangerous.
Sorry to hear that. Yes, it is. Dave Matthews here. Well, we're taking all your questions about all my hits, like that one horrible song and that other horrible song.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Nice to see you, Bruce Moose. May I just tell you,
Yeah, it is.
you really did a fabulous job with your mixing and mastering of that pseudo live track of me and Spacey singing the Gobby Weatherman. I really like the way that, I mean, Your bass playing is weirdly not that on point for a drummer. You're kind of like sloppy with it, but the mix and everything, and it sounds better than any mix I've made of it. It's not even a multi-tracked one.
It
So
does sound great.
I'm getting better at mixing and mastering
Yeah.
stuff, but I just wanted to point that out and say that because I've been listening. I listened to that some time back, and I was like, yeah, he did. He totally did because he's got a action optimized form of FE. He's not afraid to push me here or there with FE, subtle FE things. And he did so successfully. That's what makes INFJs and ENTPs a good match. It's like, oh yeah, sorry about that, Running Fox. In fact, I thought about making a little video saying, "Dear Running Fox, my bad. It wasn't you."
I was surprised when I heard it was you. Like, I was like, huh? I didn't see your name, and I also, like, was surprised that you would say something like that. But it turns out it wasn't you,
It
so.
wasn't.
I'm glad it wasn't you.
Rainman's in chat. I was so honored when the Holy Shaw classified my username as a subordinal app. What's a subordinal app? I don't know what that is. I don't know what a subordinal app is. And I love INFJs very much, Eucalyptus Koala. You guys are the best. Yeah, absolutely. You could slice raw beef with that jawline of yours. You could just take a roast beef, and just run it along that jawline, and you get perfectly shaved cuts of lunch meat. That man right there, Eucalyptus Koala, he has got. You could go into like movies as the square-jawed guy, like, ah, here I am. Look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Dynamite. It's good to see you.
A word or phrase that is also a word or phrase when read backwards. Near. But it's not a word or phrase going forwards. Rain isn't spelled like that.
Yeah.
It auditorily makes sense as a phrase or a word going in this direction, but when you look at it, it's not a phrase or word going that direction. So I guess Joshua wanted to show off his knowledge of literary terms or something. That's fine. I might do that as well. I could see myself doing that. I could see myself showing off my knowledge of literary terms by saying, "Oh, that's actually called a synecdoche." It's just, I don't really like literary terms very much, but
Someone spelled Capillo wrong and I corrected them.
I corrected them too.
Oh.
I said it's actually Capillo, but close enough. They spelled it Cupio.
Mm-hmm.
That was on the A Kitty Named Blade video. Boy, that one got a lot of high likes ratio.
That's
for that
it.
video.
Yeah.
Of course, still didn't get on the shorts feed. How you get on the shorts feed? I have no idea now anymore. Apparently, you don't even get a chance.
I got Tiffany at the fish store as a recommendation.
Yeah, but then it's like if you get it as a recommendation, you're treating it as a long form video.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm glad that it's recommending it to people who might like it, but the whole idea of doing shorts is that you have a chance to get on the shorts feed, and if it's successful on its initial round on the shorts feed, then it gets an additional round on the shorts feed, and etc. and presumably all the way up to 1 billion views or whatever. If you continue hitting with broader and broader audiences, it gets you all the way there. Well, if I don't get even the initial chance at the short speed, then why am I using this medium?
I'm gonna get the mail. I'll be right back.
Okay. I think I might be wrapping this up anyway. And maybe segue into doing something else, or I don't know. I am inclined to. Well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do today. I kind of want to record Wonderful, Wonderful Kitty. And, you know, all I have is the second to last one. Right? It's the second to last one. The penultimate. Oh, there's a good use for penultimate. We have a chance to use penultimate legitimately, contextually. It's the penultimate one on your initial list, right? Is the correct spelling of Capio. It means sweetheart in Hawaiian. Isn't that nice? Because my kitty is a sweetheart. She's a really sweet kitty to me and Rachel. She's just not very friendly to other people. No, her name's not Quapi. Ooh. It's actually spelled Q apostrophe Q apostrophe Q. Oh. Helen Keller, 3 Ways to Learn. Only 3 ways to learn. To really know something, Helen Keller's got to smell it, she's got to taste it, she's got to feel it. That's the premise of my film. And then, you know, part curtains, raised curtains. Reading my braille book. Reading. What is this word? Penis. What is this? That's the premise for my movie, Only 3 Ways to Learn. As Jonathan Basanti says, it's just a montage of Helen Keller smelling a bunch of dicks. It's got a rich gamey smell. Like classical music playing behind it, and like all this great cinematography. Like it comes from like a drone from way up high, and gradually gets closer and closer and closer until you see right up close, just Helen Keller's nose, just tip of her nose, barely touching a penis, and her going. And that lady who helped her all the time, she's there going, "But Helen, there must be some other way for you to learn." Bye, Agra. Have a good night. Sleep well. Don't let the bread bugs bite. Don't let the bread bugs bite. Bread bugs are the things that are always eating your bread when you're not looking. Where did all my bread go? When you wake up in the morning, you say, "Where did all my bread go?" Blame the bread bugs. If you wake up on the floor, having gone to bed in bread, then probably the bread bugs have eaten all of your bread. And anybody who's without bread has my sympathy. You've got to have bread, otherwise you're Asian. All penis sniffing in this video. No penises were harmed in the making of this video.
Yay!
What's this?
Stuff we were waiting for.
We already got this.
Oh, really?
I just never messaged him and saying we got it, I guess. I should have. Maybe I need to do that. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I guess I'll open it. I guess I'll open it. That's only because I'm on camera right now. Otherwise, I would just set it down. If you guys weren't watching me be a retard, then I would be even more retarded. Yeah, let's see what this is. Yeah. Yeah, this is the same thing. It's just more copies of it because I didn't tell him I got the first copy because I was freaking flaked out. I got to do that today, and that's really annoying because it's like, oh, it's so effy. I gotta both say I got them, and I already got your previous ones, and I fucked up. I didn't reply and say I got them. Thank you so much. Even though it's like, oh, Eric. Oh, nightmare. I don't like those kind of things. Those are so hard to write, you know? It probably is easier to open envelopes like that, Rain. I would guess, but I'm fine with wasting a couple of seconds in my envelope opening because I don't open that many envelopes, you know?
Yeah.
So, if with scissors, right? Right all over, right down the middle with scissors. This is for Jan, yeah. Oh.
The signature?
Yeah, it's those papers. Which he already sent us a copy, but I never sent him a... yeah, so he sent us another copy because he didn't hear from us that we got him, so I gotta send that Luminella message. You know, it's gonna be... I don't want to write that. Oh, well, I have to. There's no escaping it.
We could do it right now with the people helping us. Or just... Hey, Jonathan Pasanti. Hey, Oliver Linehan.
Alright, fine. It's a good idea, Rachel. Boot failure, boot, a boot failure. Boot failure, you know, I know you are not very popular. Boot failure, boot, a boot failure. Oh, Eric, you're such a big Bailey fan, big failure times. Ooh, Eric, so bad at Bailey. I guess I just composed now. Eric's so bad and Bailey. Yeah. Okay, I'll reply to this one. It says the last thing, let me know when you receive the letters. Hi, Dr. Ingram. Oh, this is backwards. Cap locks on. God damn it. Hi, Dr. Ingram. We received the letters. I'm terribly sorry. I didn't follow up when we first received them, as we have now received the second copy you sent. The letters look fantastic. And again, sorry I didn't let you know we had received them, as you had indicated. as you indicated, I had it there at the end of your last message. Thanks, Eric. Oh, so painful. Oh my God, so difficult
I know,
to write.
it's so painful.
Oh, that's the worst. That was so good to get that out
Oh.
of the way. That is not on my shoulders anymore.
Yay, it's not on your shoulders anymore.
Whew. That was hard. Oh, that was so hard. That was like the worst.
I'm sorry.
Hyperbole is great. I love it more than I love anything in the entire world. More than 1 billion nuclear bombs. Okay, that's it. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. I love you all. Rachel does too. Don't speak.